And welcome to the first edition of the Global Travel Tech online webinar series. Today, we'll be looking at navigating AI and the rapid shift that's coming in travel tech as a result of the advent of AI. My name is Paul Walsh, and I will be moderating the discussion today. And I am delighted to be joined by Carolin Wehrhahn from Booking.com, Fredrik Odeen from Amadeus, Emmanuel Mounier from Global Travel Tech, and Dr. Hennis Thies from the OECD. So we have a nice spectrum of different speakers to cover this topic in the series today. We're going to start with an introduction from each speaker, a couple of slides. We won't stay on the slides for too long. After that, we'll be right into the discussion. And so thank you everyone for joining today. I'd like to stress to everybody in the online room that you are more than welcome to join the discussion by using the chat, answering the Q&A. There's lots of people watching on LinkedIn Live as well. So very welcome to you all. And with that, I think that we can go to the first slide with introduction from our first speaker. So let's move the slide and get started with the webinar. Okay, Carolin, and it's over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Paul. So my name is Carolin Wehrhahn. As you were saying, I'm the new head of EU Public Affairs and head of the EU Brussels office of Booking.com. So thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar today. I'm very delighted to be part of this discussion, as probably everyone knows. So I'm not going into much details now in the beginning, but Booking.com is a Dutch-founded, Amsterdam-based digital tech company, and we have about 2,000 people in our headquarters in Amsterdam. And if you look at them, about 4,500 are working directly or indirectly on tech and AI innovation. And we are number 3 contributor on R&D investment in the Netherlands. So for AI is not new for Booking.com. We use it for travel data, machine learning to enhance, on one hand, the customer journey and offer a trusted and user-friendly experience for our travelers. And then we also, of course, use it to help small independent partners to deliver smarter guest experiences. So I'm going to talk about this later today, I guess, and I will leave it here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Carolin. And now let's go to Amadeus, Fredrik Odeen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fredrik. I run innovation programs in Amadeus within our corporate strategy unit, and obviously, like everybody that runs innovation programs these days, AI is the biggest topic that we have in Amadeus. Just like Carolin said, for Booking.com, we've been using AI obviously for a very long time. We've gone through the whole journey from early AI applications, machine learning, etc., into generative AI, and now we're moving more and more into more innovation projects around agentic AI, which I'm sure we'll cover in a little while as well. So very excited to be here and talk about that.
Thank you very much. And let's go to Emmanuel. As I said, Global Travel Tech is bringing everybody together today. So thanks for putting this together, Emmanuel, and over to you.
Thanks a lot. Well, I'm very happy for our speakers to be with me today. As you said, this is the first webinar hosted by Global Travel Tech, a trade association which has been launched only last year in 2024, and which brings travel tech leaders from across the globe. So Amadeus and Booking.com, that you can see in this panel, but also Travelport, Skyscanner, and Expedia Group. Obviously, AI is quite high on our watch list because AI is what is turning upside down our sector currently, as many others, and therefore we are looking at what's happening, but we're also trying to consider what's needed. So basically, how policy frameworks will adapt to this new revolution, and how we travel tech players have to adapt to those new policy frameworks. This is what we will discuss today, and I'm looking forward for this discussion with my fellow panelists. So thanks a lot, Paul.
So we have companies, we have an association, and we have OECD to get that policy element into the discussion as well. Dr. Hennis Thies, why don't you introduce what you will be speaking about today?
Thanks a lot. Thanks for inviting OECD to this interesting webinar. So my name is Hennis Thies. That's correct. I'm policy analyst, economist at the OECD. More specifically, this is the Center for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, Regions, and Cities, where we are located. And we have specifically work on tourism policy and also a specific tourism policy and analysis unit. The OECD is carrying out a lot of work on AI across the various sectors and directorates topics, and specifically on tourism with our tourism committee and our secretariat. We have, of course, different technologies on our radar. And also during COVID, there was a strong emphasis and a strong need by the policymakers to really explore future technologies. And that's what we also try and do with the report that you can see on the screen. We will talk about this later as well. So our task is then also to support the policymakers, to put them in a place to support the industries in their countries, in their economies. So we are trying to carry out a lot of workshops. We try to move on with reports and trying to become now at this stage more concrete with policy considerations as we learn more about the technology and how we can use it and how the industry is using it. So I'm very much looking forward to the discussion today.
Me too. I can't wait to get into this discussion. Before we get right into it, I just want to check that our chat is working, and that the people in the audience are in fact real people and not AI bots. But I'm sure it is true that you are in fact real people. But just to make absolutely sure, what excites or concerns you most about AI in travel? If you're in the audience and you want to participate, think about that question. What excites or concerns you most about AI in travel? Check out the chat function there and put your answer, and we can kind of put that to the audience and include that in the discussion as well. Also, if you're on LinkedIn, feel free to comment on this live LinkedIn stream too. And so with that, I'm really keen to go to Carolin, and let's start generally before we really get into the details. But I'm just keen to hear from you, at Booking.com, when it comes to deploying generative AI. What are you doing there already to enhance traveler personalization and to streamline trip planning? What do you think, Carolin?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. So as I was just saying in the introduction, of course, AI is not new, right, to Booking.com. It has been cornerstone of our platform for over a decade already, and it really enables us to provide an optimized experience. So when searching for the perfect trip, or whether it's from recognizing high demand properties to displaying travel options tailored to the travel seeker's needs, etc., in the language, of course, they need, because in Europe already we have a lot of languages, and then worldwide. So we use AI from start to finish, I would say. For over 20 years, we have developed AI models to power our platform, from discoverability, anti-fraud measures, for example, to detect and to prevent card fraud. But of course, you mentioned Gen AI, so that's fundamentally changing the travel tech landscape, and we think it's really driving innovation and customer experience, partner support, operational efficiency, and also industry structure. And what we are doing, we are simplifying the journey from AI trip support, so for example, to answering hotel queries, helping with rental cars, and that's things we're looking into. And then we are also empowering partners, so partners are our hotels, short-term rental hosts, etc., with tools like Help Me Reply, etc. But I can talk about this also a bit later, in building foundational tech-like agent hubs to accelerate the progress. And then also, of course, internally, we are recognizing that AI really has the potential to increase the better performance and productivity of our team, to drive better and faster and more cost-efficient outcomes for the business. So it's really enabling, I would say, our employees to do their job better. And so that's how we're looking at it.
And how does this help when it comes to the traveler experience? How does this make things more personalized for them?
Yeah, so I mean, our mission at Booking.com is basically to make it easier for everyone to experience the world. And we are making it easier by investing and deploying tech and AI, by really removing the friction out of the trip. So we see that travel planning with AI-powered features like Smart Filter, Property Q&A, review summaries, for example, simplify really key steps in the trip planning trip planning process. And so making it easier for the travelers to find the perfect place to stay, analyze the guest reviews, and so on. And our ultimate vision, I think colleagues have probably talked about this already, is to provide a truly connected trip. And we have always envisioned this connected trip as having technology as its center. And we believe that AI is really now advancing us closer and faster to this vision. To predict and adapt it more to the traveler needs in real time, and have a more personalized and responsive experience. I can also talk, of course, about we have an AI trip planner, for example, which we have already launched in the UK, in the US, India, and other countries, and we will be launching it soon in the EU. And so that has changed how users are booking today their trips, so they can ask the AI trip planner general travel-related questions or very specific questions at any stage of the trip planning. So this includes scoping out potential destinations, accommodations, attractions, options, etc., and so on. And so that's really helping them then to find to really address individual needs, I would say, and creating itineraries for very specific cities or countries or regions. So I would say before it was more like you went and you had a more or less idea already where you want to go. And now you can have open results questions on our platforms on the basis of AI.
Thank you very much, Carolin. And I'm very keen to come back to this and kind of hear more about what a connected trip really means. But let's come back to that. Fredrik, let's get into the details a bit more. Tell me about Amadeus. What are you doing when it comes to back-end systems? How are you using AI there? Disruption management, predictive analysis, those sort of things. How is AI helping Amadeus?
So I think we see it very, very broadly. Obviously, with the pace that it's advancing on and the move from not just AI to generative AI, but to agentic AI has unlocked so many use cases for us that just across all of our business units, you look at when we work with hotels, when we work with airlines, when we work with travel agencies like Booking.com, they're just such a range of use cases with hundreds and hundreds of use cases. But I think when we break it down, we look at it maybe along 3 horizons. And the first horizon, which is really quite generic for all companies, but also outside of the travel industry, is internal worker productivity. So just everybody in Amadeus, I think we had more than 80% adoption rate of AI tools in making the travel workforce or our workforce more productive, being able to answer customer queries faster, being able to create more features that our customers are demanding within our products faster, has a huge impact. And we can see some of the leading companies outside of the travel industry already generating up to 30% of their output, whether it be code or something else, using generative AI tools. That just opens up an extremely broad range of opportunities for us to bring more and more innovation to the travel industry. And you can see how that.
Is it not a bit overwhelming? Like you said, there are so many use cases. How do you prioritize what to implement now and what maybe to postpone? What sort of criteria do you use when making these type of prioritization decisions?
So I think we're very focused, we're very disciplined in being business driven and having business cases. We have a centralized structure which we use to organize, to gathering use cases from all of Amadeus, both bottom up and from different business unit planning processes, where we then evaluate the business cases on how easy are they to implement, or how likely is AI to work well as a solution, and how much return we're likely to see from those type of use cases. And that's how we prioritize a lot of our use cases, but just like we do with other investments. A little bit of the magic there probably happens from upskilling our teams, like having people used to using AI every day makes a huge difference. And that allows us to bring a lot of the internal efficiencies into new solutions, new products with AI in our other 2 dimensions, which is really around putting AI into our existing products. So we're adding co-pilots or assistants to a lot of our solutions, like our corporate travel booking tool, Fredrik. We have a new AI assistant there that helps travelers plan and book travel in a conversational manner. We have for our BI solutions, where we provide BI and information for travel companies to make informed decisions, whether it's about advertising, demand generation, revenue management systems that use a lot of information that traditionally have relied on big departments of data scientists. Now we're able to have conversational interfaces there that allows business users to analyze data and draw conclusions in natural language, which obviously has a lot of amazing impacts in terms of time to market, being able to use more and more information to take good decisions across the travel industry. And then the third dimension that we're looking at is new products. So we're looking at, okay, with AI, not just enhancing existing products, but what new products, what new ways of doing business can we enable in the travel industry? And there, I think the example that Carolin mentioned around trip planners and itinerary planners, if you look at the impact that that could have on problems from the travel industry, like over-tourism, it is really, really exciting to start thinking about how can you, like I think we've always had one of the best experiences that we've all had as travelers is if you go and visit somebody that lives in a city that can show you all the spots that you wouldn't normally visit because you don't have a best friend in every city. Right?
You're not going to replace that lovely human experience with AI, are you?
Well, I think AI has the potential to create you wouldn't just have a best friend in the cities where you know somebody. You have a best friend in every city that can show you all the secondary spots that can spread out and make sure that you go and visit all the things that are not overcrowded, all of that local content that the different locations in the world have to offer.
Like your friendly AI tour guide, friendly AI local tour guide. Great. Okay. Let's come back to that as well. Emmanuel, you have the fun and perhaps challenging job of kind of managing the policy side of this at global level. When it comes to your engagement with members, what do you think are the areas that the companies in your membership are most looking for clarity on?
Well, AI is basically software fed by data, and data policy issues have been once we have discussed for a long time, and basically all the issues surrounding data and data use, data governance are relevant to AI. So for our business especially, I mean, Fredrik was just talking about having your good local friends in the form of an AI agent helping you to discover. Basically, what we want to provide as advice, as support, as planning support for our customers is based on their preferences, on their experiences. Well, all of that is actually personal data. So how to deal with this personal data, how to use personal data in the AI context. So all the issues surrounding privacy are clearly ones where our members are keen on having clear guidance, railroads, so that they can develop their products in an environment which is safe for everybody, basically. So that's clearly a question. All the issue regarding data access, maybe looking on the other side of the deal, our job is to be transparency enablers. We basically take a lot of data from our travel service suppliers and we present it in a curated, filtered, adapted way to our users. Well, that requires to have access to the right data if we want to do that, and it's not always easy. And to have clear rules regarding data exchange, data sharing is also an important matter for our members. So I would think that you have all this issue, and then when it comes to actual AI policy discussion, like the one we're having in the EU currently, well, this mostly look at what will be considered as high-risk data, which is not maybe the one which is relevant for industry, because, well, we're not managing energy systems. We're not talking about AI-powered digital weapons. This is not what we are doing. So we're more policy takers than we are policy makers or policy leaders in this specific AI side. So there we're more trying to monitor what's happening, whether it could be relevant for our sector, whether it's overreaching compared to what is at stake in our sector, and that's something to flag also sometimes. But so yes, we are not necessarily at the forefront in our travel environment because we're more talking of low-risk applications of AI. If you look at the usual categorizations of the different AI uses.
Okay, fine. And I guess, is that part of your message as well, that we are part of this low risk area, and so it doesn't necessarily need a huge amount of regulatory policy attention?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I don't think this is a message we need to hammer very loudly, because it's quite obvious to a number of policymakers. So when you ask people, well, why is AI of concern to you? They will talk about those self-driving cars. They will talk about well, use of AI in defense. They will talk about use of AI in utilities. This is not our business. I mean, if you talk about, maybe Fredrik could talk about it, AI in air traffic control, yes, you have really some important issues to look at. This is not what travel tech is doing directly, and so yeah, it's not really something we need to advocate for. I think there are a great deal of discussions at global level on AI policy, with a clear focus being put by all policymakers across the globe of finding the right balance between regulation and innovation, because we also are all very aware of what AI can bring to our economies and societies. I mean, Fredrik and Carolin were both talking about the uptake in productivity that can be got out of AI. That's true for travel tech companies as for every company, and that's a new revolution nobody wants to miss. So yes, I think we don't have to convince too much about the benefits. And when it comes to the challenges, to the even threats of AI, yes, I think we are a bit far away from what we are talking about in travel tech.
Hannes, sticking with policy, I mean, you've come up with policy recommendations when it comes to AI in tourism. I mean, tell us a bit about those. I mean, we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about privacy safeguards. How does the OECD see this? How do you see that these issues need to be addressed?
Yeah, so we are also in a similar situation than I think global travel tech. So we are a little bit in the role of an observer. We need to be up to date. We need to understand all the industry applications in the end, all the use cases. And that's what we see also in our analysis is that the different subsectors of the tourism industry, may it be travel tech, may it be hospitality, tour operators, and so on, they all face slightly different challenges when it comes to AI adoption as well. And we have been through a process, for example, here with this report you can see on the screen. It's based on the G7 process we discussed last year with or under the presidency of Italy for the first time, really a tourism working group working on a specific technology like AI here. So this was a very productive process where we been in touch then also with the policymakers. So on the one hand, we need to understand the tourism industry and their requirements and challenges, but on the other hand, we also need to understand what does it mean for the policymakers. I mean, they are the ones that actually should support in a way the tourism industry and also face potential imbalances. You can see also here on the slide we try to touch upon a couple of things. I mean, Emmanuel already said data protection, we need robust measures there. We are acting across borders, so also from a national tourism organization perspective, from destinations, we need to take those things into consideration when we are talking about potential policy measures. But especially also for travel tech, maybe relevant, there are also many tourism SMEs that are somehow connected to the big players like Booking.com or Amadeus, but also many micro and small enterprises in the tourism sector. And I think it was one of our first learnings, having a look at the AI landscape in tourism, that it might be really a threat for them to go on with this high pace of rapid AI developments. And this is, for example, one area where policymakers try to support the businesses in their country, in their tourism industry, and trying to raise awareness, raising the human capital, raising awareness also then about the job discussion. I mean, also in hospitality sector, this is really on top of the list. Will jobs be replaced by an AI and this whole discussion?
And in your analysis, have you seen an impact already on jobs?
The OECD is carrying out across directorates in industries and a few analysis on this. So tourism and hospitality is part of the sectors that are somehow impacted. But to be honest, the number that is placed there, this is really hard to say. I mean, there's so many variables that the sector is changing a lot. We see also from the numbers of tourism SMEs or tourism enterprises in general who apply AI tools. It has been like 8% in 2023, but what does it actually mean? The sector is moving that fast. And what does it mean if you implement an AI tool? Which kind of AI tool are you implementing? Is it a large language model? Is it a third-party model? Also for the smaller enterprises, they are not fully aware whether they are employing or adapting a tool that is already using AI. For example, I don't know, a tool from Booking.com, Amadeus, or the other players. Those SMEs use it, but they are not really all the time aware of it. This is also a statistical challenge that we see in this quickly changing landscape.
Very good. Thank you very much. And so we already have a question in the Q&A section section. Sure, the first of many. Josiane Cotillard, former MEP. The general gist of this is that, okay, AI is not kind of high risk in tech, but there's still a case to be made for the need for AI governance within travel tech cases. And I'm going to put this to Carolin first. And so where do you stand on this with respect to maybe the training of employees relating to AI use and development, basic principles and obligations when it comes to ESG, competitiveness, purposes? What's the position of Booking.com on this, Carolin?
Yeah, so maybe in general, I think I can just support, what has been said also from Emmanuel before. I think generally we see there's definitely a role, for regulation in order to ensure responsible and ethical deployment of AI, and we are implementing, for example, Gen AI with utmost care for the impact on all our stakeholders, whether it's our travelers, partners, or employees, right? So that's for us a very important aspect. And we also understand ourselves as an active contributor to these regulatory discussions, which were just mentioned. On the very specific question, of course, on AI, and so what we have done, we had extensive research, discussed and debated how AI can be developed ethically, considering best practices, proposed regulation, and everything. And one result is that we have, of course, our internal, as any tech company, I guess, has ethical AI principles, which really help us to guide any tech development according to our values, according to law. We always offer human oversight, apply a privacy-first approach, actively work against lack of inclusion, which is led by our AI ethics committee, for example. So sometimes also means that our Gen AI powered products, for example, are not always the first on the market, but at least, we feel like we have done our homework. So of course that includes training of employees, etc. Yeah.
Okay. Carolin, it's like you've been with Booking.com for decades. So thanks for you have the whole picture. Emmanuel, would you like to come in on this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, listening to Carolin, I think that reflects very much how things are being approached in the sector, in the travel tech sector. Travel tech has always been a customer-centric industry. So we need to make sure that whatever product we put on the market are improving what we already bring to our customers. So it cannot be AI for the sake of AI, it has to be AI for the sake of our customers. So it means that you cannot replace existing flows with AI without being very certain that it will bring an added value and that will not be to the detriment. Carolin was mentioning privacy, so that's clearly a very important aspect. You need to ensure that throughout your new AI process, you safeguard the privacy of your users at every step. And if it cannot be ensured, then you should refrain from doing that. Maybe to take an example from another of our members that is not in the panel, Expedia. They have actually set up a responsible AI council internally, which is a bit similar to what Carolin just described for Booking, which is composed of people from legal, from cybersecurity, from tech as well. and which is screening and, if needed, vetting any new AI agents being developed and put either in place internally or externally before unrolling, simply because you need to be sure that this is only for the better. So AI for the sake of AI indeed can come with issues. You have some clear ethical concerns here. We talked about privacy, but you could have other examples, but it also comes for effectiveness. I mean, there is no technology which is good in itself. It's always a mean to an end. And so what matters, what is our end, is to deliver better service to our customers.
Great. It's always great when we're getting questions in these type of webinars. It makes my job much easier. Hell yeah. Thanks very much for this question. I think this is one for Fredrik to begin at least. How can tourism businesses reduce the risk of bias in AI, especially when you take into account that AI systems are trained on historical data? And so bias is going to be an issue there when it comes to customer preferences. Social trends are evolving. All we have is the historical data. Maybe AI will get things wrong. How do you deal with that at Amadeus, Fredrik?
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's a very good question. It's so I think, yeah, from a more of a business perspective rather than the let's say ethical perspective, you could have bias that has ethical implications as well. And obviously there we have similar setups. I think that Carolin described. We have an AI use case board with legal, etc. that reviews it to make sure that we avoid that type of bias. In terms of just from a business perspective, I'm making sure that you're not giving inaccurate recommendations using historical data. I think what we see with generative AI is that it opens up a whole new way of getting better data than the historical data. You're able to have many new types of interfaces like chatbots, where you can have a conversation with a customer and really understand their preferences. And then you can personalize to their preferences rather than to historical data and trends that you have. So in terms of having bias in the recommendations, I think AI is actually improving a lot what we had before. Historical data is more an issue when we're training the models and when we're training algorithms to do that. But I think we have ways of dealing with that as well. There's a lot of new ways of generating data. One of the big use cases that we have for AI is taking unstructured data that we couldn't use to train models before and extracting information from that and making it structured and creating, like, changing problems over from problems that we couldn't use AI to actually be able to apply AI to new types of problems because we can create structured data from it. A lot of benefits there.
I pick up a bit of, let's say, optimism about human ingenuity in this question, because I think there's a suggestion here that you might have all this historical data, all of these AIs getting more data from chat interfaces and so on, but maybe there's a room for a bit of kind of human creativity to be able to predict where customer trends are going and build products around them and so on. I hope. I mean, I'm looking for the role for human beings always in this AI discussion. Emmanuel, what's your take on this?
Well, no, I think we can try to use AI to our advantage. I mean, talk about to take the question and also to pick up on what Fredrik said earlier regarding over-tourism. So, which is a very important issue in our sector. And what is over-tourism? It is a concentration in one place at one time of number of visitors, which is going above what is the capacity of the destination. So it's a question of management of tourism flows. So if you look at the question, I fully understand that you have a concern that with AI, well, if you say, well, I would like a suggestion for a trip to Croatia in July, you will be told, well, let's go to Dubrovnik. That's the one you cannot miss. And then it will just increase our tourism there. But with the right training and also with the right use, including by local authorities, those agents can also find a way to divert flows, to have a better management of those tourism flows, because, well, managing tourism flows, it's managing flows, and managing flows, data flows, tourism flows is what we know how to do. So there, it can be a multi-sided tool, and so it's a mean to an end. So the question is, what is your objective? What is your end? But I think it can also allow. I understand the fear, but I also see as a reason of the optimism of Fredrik.
Okay, Fredrik, Carolin, you spoke about personalization. I guess to give this personalized experience, you need to know about your customer. But is there a case where needing to know so much about your customer can get into maybe privacy concerns? Maybe your customers don't want you to know so much about them. So how do you balance that sort of privacy concern with the desire to give them a very personalized experience? Carolin, you've done so well before. I'm going to start with you on that question.
That's a very good question. I mean, I think in the end, we at Booking.com, as I guess any other company operating in Europe worldwide, right? We are complying with GDPR requirements. So I would say we have a pretty robust framework there, which is there to protect our customers' data, right? So I would say that's something we definitely make sure that we are not using that. As I was saying, also when it comes to AI, we have been endorsing the AI Act from the beginning. And we joined, for example, the AI Pact, which was there. We were one of the first 100 companies. So to already kind of comply with a number of areas, in the AI Act. And we have already started the work on that and we'll share best practices soon, etc. But I would say, of course, most importantly, it's applying the law and being compliant with GDPR and make sure that because our customers, this is the value, right, of our platform, that they come and continue booking with us.
Fredrik, same question. I want a personalized experience, but I don't want tech companies to know about me. How do you as a tech company manage that?
It's a very interesting question. Like Carolin said, like GDPR, obviously we have a very strong and robust framework to protect consumers in the European Union and in some other markets as well. No? But I think if you take a step back, like a lot what consumers are concerned about is having given access to data and then not knowing what it's being used for and being used against them. If you look at what we're doing with AI now, with generative AI and chatbots, you have a conversation with a chatbot, you're fully aware, you're much, much more aware of what information you're giving in which context. So I rather see implementing this type of user interfaces where you're having a conversation with somebody, an agent or an AI bot, and it asks you for information in exchange for something. If you tell me something about yourself, I will give you a personal recommendation. That connection is much clearer now and much closer in time. That should make consumers feel much more comfortable with saying, okay, I'm happy to share more about myself because I get something in exchange for it immediately.
Great. The consent part is easier to apply now than before. Okay. Very good. Two great questions. Halnia, Josie Ann, you're keeping things going great there in the question and answer session. I'm going to go to OECD for this first question. There's a lot in it, but the main part of it is, do you trust that human interaction will be around, I assume, in the travel world, alongside AI agents, let's say in the next 10 to 20 years? What do you think, Hannes?
Yes, I would summarize it under the issue of trust and reliability. That's also what we see in the discussion and also what we see with the policymakers. So a couple of them are still cautious. They engage in the discussion, but they frequently highlight the role of trust, reliability of results when you use chatbots, AI-driven booking, and so on. So yeah, I think based on this strong human interaction that we have in tourism, we can't really allow that wrong information are shared with our customers. And then we might quickly get to a point where we lose momentum for AI usage when customers then say, oh, no, I don't trust this information and so on. I know that tech is very advanced and we can avoid these things, but still also you may recognize from OpenAI publications that hallucinations are increasing still, where we thought the other way around would happen. And yeah, of course, we still need this human interaction in tourism. And what we've done in the report is one of the main messages is that, of course, AI can boost productivity, as Fredrik already said in the beginning. And this could then free up resources which we can use for the important human tourist interaction. So I would rather see it as a relocation of focus and where we really engage with the tourists, especially as we have in a few countries, we have still labor shortages and a lot of discussion going on. But I still think, and I think all of you will probably agree that we need a human interaction in tourism to really provide personalized experience, then also not just personalized based on your preferences and what you will do next in your during your trip, but also to have this, yeah, to meet the local people, to get insights into the culture. These are things that you can only hardly plan. So the unforeseen, the sudden situations that you step in as a tourist. So we will still need it, and this will still contribute to the tourism experience.
Hannes, I hope so. I'm not totally convinced. Fredrik, you've already talked about the AI tour guide. Will there still be human interaction in travel booking in 20 years' time? And what I'm very interested in, what area will that human interaction be in? What will be the part that will not be replaced by AI?
I definitely think there will be human interaction. Like whatever people want and are willing to pay for, there will be like wherever there's demand, there will be a supply that meets that demand, right? I think something that we often forget when you talk about like how AI will impact job markets and how AI will impact human interactions and where human interactions will be in the travel industry or in the economy as a whole, is that what AI does fundamentally is lower the cost of a lot of things. And whenever we see a lowering of cost, we usually see an increase in demand, right? So it's not that AI coming in and replacing workers and removing people from the travel industry is a given that it will be that type of dynamic. In many sectors, in many segments or different types of human interactions that you can have, if AI comes in and lowers the cost overall, it makes workers 10 times as productive, you will likely have more demand because the price of those services will come down. So you might have more human interaction because there are more people around that have time to interact with people across the whole chain.
Yeah. I'm certainly banking on kind of face-to-face events. I think my webinar moderating career might be short-lived, but I think the face-to-face side I'm hoping and there'll still be a market for. But that's just about me. Emmanuel, we have another question from Josiane. So, you know, we talked about how AI can help in productivity, but maybe this is something that is more relevant to larger companies who have the resources to train their staff and so on, and maybe SMEs are at a disadvantage here as a result of this sort of a trend. Do you see the likelihood or even the risk of greater consolidation, much more of a focus on larger companies doing well at the expense of smaller ones? What do you think?
Well, so if there is a travel tech industry, it is because travelers want some help, some support in finding what's right for them, in finding their way through an incredibly fragmented ecosystem of the travel and tourism sector. But actually, they do love this fragmentation in the sense that what they are looking for is a small SME boutique hotel, which will be uniquely suited to their needs, and also with this human touch you were talking about, which is unique. To go back to this human touch thing, if you look at the reviews of hotels where you have 5 stars, is where you have a reference to the owner. Actually, yes, I would like to thank the boss for being so nice with us, etc. That's what makes the difference. So basically, in this AI world, travel tech help SMEs to thrive because it helps them to use AI tools, digital tools, tech tools, to find their space, become visible in this ecosystem. Because they can provide this human touch, and we can bring them the people who are looking for this human touch. So we connect the two worlds. That's what we're bringing to travelers. So without us, indeed, finding your way for local SME hotel towards while you are in Greece and you try to attract Canadian tourists, well, I mean, using the tech world to try to get them to come will be quite challenging. If you use the tools of a Booking or an Expedia or all our members, well, they are giving you the tools to showcase your excellence, to showcase the services, the unique services you're offering, and to present to the world and to attract this global customer base So we are basically making tech a useful tool to those SMEs we are talking about, a tool you cannot do without today. So AI is clearly great when it comes to sort out a massive wealth of data, and this is what we as travelers are all trying to do every time we try to book holidays. So this is actually massive added value for those SMEs. So yes, you need to be able to use those skills, but I believe our job is to help them. And I mean, Carolin, I'll be happy to hear more from you on how you make those AI-based tools available to your partners to help them marketing their products.
Oh, there's a link here. Very good. Carolin, tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I was very happy when I saw the question, because that's actually really something, we are looking also at all the time at Booking.com, how is it going with our partners? How does it work? Because they're not all a large chain, right? We have a lot of SMEs also on our platforms. And so for the past years, we actually asked our accommodation partners annually about the challenges they're facing in relation to tech and AI uptake. And we published a barometer about this, and it was actually the latest edition was published yesterday. We had a nice event in the European Parliament, so you might find it somewhere on the web. And so this report, for example, shows that exactly what the question was, and I think also Hannes was saying it earlier, that there is a lot of, that is high cost, integration complexity, lack of technical know-how. That are the main barriers, I would say, for digital adoption. And over 60% of European accommodation cite that cost is a key challenge. And over half report difficulties with exactly expertise and systems. And so these obstacles very often leave many SMEs behind and create a fragmented landscape. And that's where we also come in as Booking.com. So we are using AI to serve our partners, so hotels, short-term rental accommodations. So one example is this AI tech stack advisor, for example, which was launched in, I think, late 2024. And it's a generative AI tool that gives hoteliers customized recommendations how to modernize their technology infrastructure, for example. By doing so, we lower then the barriers for these independent properties to adopt effective new digital tools, drive operational efficiency, improve revenue and guest experience, etc. And of course, another question of also skills in the sector. So that's also something we are currently really looking into and want to, launch new initiatives, etc. But I would say, yeah, that's exactly as it was in the question asked. So it's a challenge, and we are trying as Booking.com to tackle this.
Thank you very much, Carolin. Hannes, what do you think are now the kind of main regulatory or legislative gaps? Do you think there are areas that are under-regulated with respect to AI that need regulation? If so, what are those areas, Hannes?
Yeah, great question. I will keep it in mind for a second, because I just wanted to quickly follow up on the previous question, just to highlight the role of SMEs again. And this is also currently part of our discussion we are having currently with the APEC economies, and looking at policymakers there, how to really support the SMEs. And one challenge is still the lack of awareness in what does AI tools really bring, and how, yeah, we need to understand those tools, how these are actually working, how can I implement it. So part of our policy recommendations, considerations are really to provide hands-on guidelines and use cases, showcasing, experimenting, providing space for experimenting also for the SMEs to have hackathons and things like that, to really make the first steps. So all in all, to lower the entry barriers. And that's what I would also say from a regulatory policy perspective. Lowering the entry barriers must be one of our key elements there in the whole discussion. And then making the link to regulations, I think the colleagues earlier said as well. We have strong regulations in the European Union on data privacy and so on. So I suppose that we are well covered from this perspective, but we need to take into consideration also working for the OECD, but also from a global perspective, that countries have very different policies and regulations in place when it comes to data governance as well. So I can only highlight what Emmanuel has said in the beginning. I think the tourism sector is currently more regulation and taker. So tourism is part of the discussion, and we try to raise the tourism flag wherever possible. But we are more in a discussion about data privacy, data sharing, and this whole regulation. So I would rather recommend that we distinguish a little bit between regulation and policy. And policy, I think also for the National Tourism Administration, that is where they actually can really make a difference, where they can launch programs, where they can launch digital hubs, where they really can support SMEs to lower the entry barriers, to support them in understanding also the regulations we have, for example, on EU level, to understand all those regulations. So the missing piece between regulations and enterprises is also an interesting one, where I think a lot of companies need more support also when implementing AI, but also other digital tools.
Okay, very good. Emmanuel, do you agree with all of that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Hannes will be much more skilled to address those issues than I am. Well, we need to look at what will make sense for a sector, but we also need to acknowledge that we are just a piece of the puzzle, and that it's a much bigger puzzle that is being faced by every society and economy across the globe. So it's more for a sector to ensure that we have a seat at the table whenever those conversations are taking place. And this is also why Global Travel Tech is around. Then it is about pointing a direction of the discussions, because it's too broad for us to push that.
And do you think that there's room or need for industry-wide initiatives on this topic? For instance, code of conduct, industry standards, and so on AI?
To be honest, I don't think we need travel or travel tech AI code of conduct. What we may need is to look at specific issues related to AI for our sector. To give an example, AI and competition. It is something which is being very closely looked at by competition authorities. And Hannes, I'm sure your colleague from the OECD competition department are also working on the matter. Well, what does generative AI notably is to replace all interfaces with one interface. So one query box bringing you the world, basically. Today, what most of our members are doing is provide an interface in order to give access to users to a great wealth of data. That's what an Amadeus is doing for travel agents. That's what a Booking is doing for its users. So if you have all interfaces merging into one, which could answer to all questions, then you have real questions, real competition issues which are rising. And we see today, well, all Google users, I'm sure you're seeing those AI overviews developing at lightning speed on Google search. That raises questions, because it can be the interface which brings every user to what they're looking for. And with Google playing the role of a gatekeeper, well, how you ensure competition is there and you don't have more innovative and maybe also less biased products out there, which are not put to use by users simply because they are invisible. So that's something that could be.
Do you think that's a big competition issue, and is that a potential threat to other or to travel tech companies, that Google using the search, using Chrome and so on to gather all of that information, and that puts everyone else at a disadvantage?
No, there is a question of access to data, but having a Google playing an anti-competitive role in the travel environment is not something new. It's something we've been discussing in this industry for a decade now, and Google is being the focus of a number of actions across the globe. So I'm just saying AI taking the continuation, and AI also being a technology which is being used by all, but with some leaders which can gain a prominent direction. So whether, to come back to your initial question, whether there should be a specific reflection on the industry on this specific topic associated to AI. But my point was, I don't think it makes sense to say, well, AI and travel, this is what we should do, this is what should be the direction. Because it's a number of different policy issues which are being intertwined with some concern. I mean, you cannot talk about privacy without talking about citizens and democracy, and that's not our only concern. It is a concern of the whole society. So you need to look at those issues from different point of views, and travel tech wants to be part of this conversation, but there is no one answer for travel tech. This is my point here.
Okay, Fredrik, let's imagine that an intern joins Amadeus and they come to you asking for some advice about what AI tool should I use to advance my career in travel tech or just in general. What type of advice would you give your intern?
So yeah, I think, like, we obviously have a lot of internal AI tools that we get from different providers to do your day-to-day job. So we have tools for white-collar workers, for doing market research, especially in innovation programs that I'm running. We're using a lot of AI tools to accelerate and evaluate innovation ideas. So an intern that joins us, that would be very well versed in different types of market research, just gathering information, different ways of searching for information that is much faster right now. On our development side, we have a lot of tools as well to help you code faster and create technical solutions faster. So if it's an intern on our technology side, just getting used to doing work with AI tools, the ones that we have available. It's nothing, I don't think there's anything specific to the travel industry that AI tools that we use internally, but it does, like, that will be as important as knowing how to email or knowing how to use a word processor for the generation.
And are you aware of an emerging AI technology that maybe we haven't discussed yet that can really help move things forward in the travel sector?
I think what we see, like when we look at the innovation programs and new things that we're doing, we're shifting over from just doing generative AI solutions to more what we call agentic solutions. So things that can automate tasks and automate roles. And that's where we see within the travel industry, the solutions that we provide for the travel industry workforce, that you can have really, that's where you can get the really strong productivity gains now. You're starting to more and more let the AI have creativity and make more and more decisions within very controlled, confined areas. But what you used to do with like robotic processes in the past, even if you take just the same thing that you applied robotic processes to in the past, if you do that with AI now, you can set up those solutions much faster, and you can make them much more adapted. You don't have to code every little decision. You can have an AI that is much better at adapting to different input and different output solutions. So you can do that much more quickly, and that's what really helps to free up, open up new use cases. You get the cost of applying robotic processes coming down a lot.
Okay, very good. I think that with that, we can bring our webinar to a close. Thank you very much, Fredrik. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you very much, Carolin. And thank you very much, Hannes. Thank you also to our very interactive audience. We really appreciated the questions and the engagement. I am quite reassured that there was a consensus on the panel that human interaction will still have a role to play in the travel industry in 20 years' time. And thank you for this insightful webinar, and stay tuned for the next Global Travel Tech webinar. We'll be in touch shortly with you all of that on that. And so with that, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much. And that's it. Thanks. Goodbye.